If you're listening to this and you've got a corporate job that's slowly draining your soul, a side project that never gets off the ground, and just a deep, gnawing sense that there has to be more to life than this, then this episode's for you. And it's actually going to be our last episode for 2025. We're going to take a break for a few weeks, and then we're going to come back with some incredible content, some new ideas, and some more practical ways to help you be and feel more free. So today, I'm not going to be here to give you some motivational pep talk about following your passion or manifesting your best life. I'm actually here today to tell you something much more uncomfortable. That the rules you've been following for building a life that you actually want, well, they're designed to actually keep you exactly where you're at, trapped, dependent, and too scared to make a move. 2025 has been a year of reckoning for a lot of people. Layoffs hit differently when you realize that 10 years of loyalty means absolutely nothing when the quarterly numbers look bad. The promise of job security revealed itself for what it always has been, which is just one big, comfortable lie. And the entrepreneurship bubble burst too, exposing all the folks who are selling you dreams built on venture capital and false hope. So today, I'm actually going to be giving you 6 rules, we'll say 6 principles that have come from living this year, not just observing it. 6 rules that I've learned from my own journey, 6 rules that I've learned from my own journey, from also coaching entrepreneurs through their transitions, and from watching what actually works versus what just sounds good on a LinkedIn post. These rules are for the person who's tired of being told to be grateful for the opportunities that are slowly killing them. This is for the person who knows that they're capable of more, but can't figure out how to bridge the gap between where they are and where they want to be. Hey y'all, this is Vivianne Castillo, and welcome to Choose Courage Inc. So before we get into the rules themselves, I need to give you a little bit of context. I've spent this past year watching 2 things happen at the same time. On one side, I've watched thousands of people get laid off from jobs that they thought were secure. People who did everything, quote unquote, right. They got the degree, they climbed the ladder, they proved their worth, and yet they still got a pink slip and a 2-week severance. And I've also watched people discover that 10, 15, 20 years of loyalty buys you exactly nothing when the market shifts. And the second thing, on the other side, I've watched the entrepreneurship industrial complex continue to sell people a fantasy. Quit your job, follow your passion, be your own boss, as if starting a business is just a matter of willpower and vision boards. As if the risks of entrepreneurship are somehow less real than the risks they're already taking by being employed. And here's what I realized. Both narratives are broken. The corporate loyalty narrative is broken because it assumes a social contract that no longer exists. Your employer's not loyal to you. They never were. And the stability you think you have is an illusion maintained just long enough to keep you productive. But the entrepreneurship narrative is equally broken because it pretends that starting a business is some kind of liberation from risk, when really it's just a different relationship with risk, one that's actually more honest. So these 6 rules exist in the tension between these 2 broken narratives, all right? They're not about choosing employment over entrepreneurship or vice versa. I'm really just trying to create a moment for clarity. These rules are about being seen clearly, making strategic moves, and really building a life where you're not constantly at the mercy of forces outside of your control. So let's get into it. The first rule is going to require a complete mindset shift, but the first rule is this. Your job is a loan, not a career, and you need to stop paying interest. Here's what I mean. When you take a loan from a bank, you understand the relationship clearly, right? The bank gives you money, you use that money to build something, a house, a business, whatever, and then you pay the bank back, ideally with as little interest as possible. You don't feel loyalty to the bank, right? You don't feel the bank is your family. You don't sacrifice your health and relationships to make the bank happy. You understand that it's a transaction and your goal is to extract maximum value while minimizing what you give up. And I believe that your job should be the same. Your employer is giving you something, a paycheck, benefits, maybe some skills and connections, and you're giving them something in return. Your time, your energy, your expertise, that's the transaction. But somewhere along the way, I think we got confused. We started to treat jobs like relationships. We started using words like family and loyalty and dedication as if your employer would ever prioritize your well being over their bottom line. Now, listen, I've been in rooms where executives decide who gets laid off. I've seen the spreadsheets. I've watched people agonize over cutting staff, not because they care about the people, but because they're worried about the optics, the productivity dip, the potential lawsuit. That's often the reality. So when I say your job is alone, I mean this. How can you start to think about the ways that you can extract everything you can while you're there? Learn every skill they'll teach you. Build every relationship you can build. Save every dollar you can save. Document every process, every client interaction, every piece of market research that might be useful later. And stop paying interest. What I mean by that, stop paying interest. Stop giving more than the transaction requires. Stop sacrificing your evenings and weekends for a company that wouldn't hesitate to replace you. Stop feeling guilty about doing your job well and then going home to work on your own thing. When I worked at Salesforce, I was really good at my job, really good. And I also had a rare experience where within 2 years of being there, I was on a FaceTime and texting basis with some of our C-level executives. And still, I used to feel guilty about the fact that my real passion was elsewhere, that I was building skills and knowledge that I knew I'd eventually use to leave. But you know what? They weren't paying me for my passion. They were paying me for my skills. And as long as I delivered on that, the rest of my mental and creative energy was mine to invest however I wanted. That's what I mean by stop paying interest. Give them what they're paying for. Take what they're offering and then invest the rest in yourself. Now let's get practical here. I want you to do something that I call a what can I get from this inventory? Okay. I want you to get a notebook or open a Google Doc, whatever works for you. And I want you to answer these questions. Number one, what skills is your job teaching you that you could use in your own business? This could be technical skills like project management or data analysis, or even more of those foundational skills like negotiation, presentation, or stakeholder management. I want you to write them all down. What skills is your job teaching you that you could use in your own business? Number two, what relationships are you building that could become clients, collaborators, or supporters? Now, I'm not saying to exploit people. I'm saying be intentional about the connections you're making. When you leave, who might be inspired to come with you? Who within your company is going to refer you business? Who's going to advocate you? Number three, what market research are you getting for free? Every customer complaint you hear, every gap in the product, every inefficiency in the process, that's market research, y'all. You're learning what people need and what the market will pay for on someone else's dime. Number four, what resources can you access that you couldn't access on your own? Software, training, conferences, mentors, these are all a part of the loan. And if your company and your employer is providing them, use them. And last but not least, number five, how much money are you saving? And is it enough to fund your transition? If you're not saving aggressively, if you're not saving thoughtfully and intentionally, then you're just servicing the loan without building equity in yourself. So do this inventory, and I encourage folks to do this at least on a quarterly basis. Seriously, I promise you, it will change how you show up to work when you realize that every day is an opportunity to prepare for what's next and not just survive what's now. All right, rule number two, your side hustle should scare you more than your day job. Ooh, this is a good one. I hear from a lot of people who say, that they have side projects. They're building a newsletter or they're doing some freelance work or they're planning to launch a course eventually. And when I ask them how it's going, they say things like, oh, it's fine. I'm just doing it in my spare time. Or they say, oh, I'm not really trying to make money yet. I'm just exploring. And I have to be honest with y'all, that's not a side hustle. That's a hobby. And there's nothing wrong with hobbies. Hobbies are great, but don't confuse a hobby with building something that could actually change your life. Here's the difference. A hobby is comfortable. It fits neatly into the margins of your life. It doesn't demand much from you, and you don't demand much from it, to be honest. Whereas a real side hustle, something that could eventually become your main thing, it should scare you a little. It should scare you because you're putting some real energy and thought and resources into it. It should scare you because you're telling people about it and it means that you could fail publicly. It should scare you because you're making decisions that could have consequences. It should scare you because you're building something that matters to you. And that means it could hurt if it doesn't work. If your side hustle feels safe and manageable, then you're playing pretend in a lot of ways. And playing pretend is fine as long as you're honest about it. But don't expect pretend work to build a real escape route. I think about it in terms of investment. If you're not investing enough into your side thing that it would genuinely hurt to lose that investment, then you're probably not serious. And I'm not saying go into debt or be reckless, but I'm saying that real commitment requires some real stakes. It requires some skin in the game. When I started Humanity Centered, I had a lot of fear around this business. I was investing money, I was investing time, resources, and I put myself out there in ways that felt really vulnerable. And one of the reasons I said no to easy corporate money was because I knew that taking it would distract me from building what I actually wanted. That fear wasn't a sign that I was doing something wrong. If anything, it was a sign that I was doing something real. So I want you to ask yourself, does your side hustle, if you have one, scare you? Does it demand something from you? Or is it just a comfortable fantasy that lets you feel like you're doing something without actually risking anything? Sometimes some of our ideas and our dreams, we use them as a form of escapism, as a form of fantasy. So to make this more real, let me give you a practical exercise. I call it the fear audit. I want you to look at your side project, if you have one, whatever you're building or thinking about building even, and answer these questions honestly. Number one, how much have you invested financially? If the answer is close to zero, that's telling you something about your commitment level. Number two, how many people have you told about it? Not your partner or your best friend. How many people in your professional network know what you're building? Because public commitment creates accountability. Number three, what decisions have you made that you can't easily undo? Have you registered a business, signed up for a course, bought equipment, hired someone, or is everything you've done completely reversible? This is a really good way to indicate your investment and internal belief in what you're building, and if it is something that you believe can become real. Number four, what would you lose if this fails? And I don't mean catastrophic loss. I mean, is there anything at stake? Like if you quit tomorrow, would anyone notice? And last, number five, when was the last time this project kept you up at night? And not in a burnout way, but in a excited, nervous, oh my gosh, this could actually work kind of way. If your answers reveal that your side hustle is basically risk-free, you have two choices. You can either admit that it's a hobby and enjoy it as such, or you can increase the stakes. You can start charging money for what you're building. You can start to set a launch date, tell your network, make decisions that matter. But the bridge between employee and entrepreneur is built with risk, and you can't cross it while staying safe. All right, let's jump into the next one. Rule number three is one that I have to remind myself of constantly. And it goes like this: stop waiting to be ready. You're already overqualified for your own dreams. I can't tell you how many people I've coached who will manage $1 million budget for their employer, lead teams of 20 people, make decisions that affect thousands of customers, and then tell me they're not ready to start a simple consulting practice. They'll present to the C-suite without breaking a sweat, but the idea of posting on LinkedIn about their expertise makes them freeze up. Or they'll design systems that serve hundreds of thousands of users, but building a landing page for their own business feels incredibly overwhelming. Do you see kind of like the absurdity of this a little bit, right? The ways that corporate causes us to not recognize our skills and our gifts, because the skills you have are enough and they've always been enough. What's not enough is your belief in yourself when you're doing something for you instead of for them. And this is one of the most insidious effects of employment and working in corporate. Corporate environments teach you to doubt yourself in very specific ways, right? They teach you that you need approval before you can act, that your ideas need to be vetted by a committee, that you're not really an expert unless you have the right title, the right credentials, the right sign off from someone higher up the chain. And then you internalize that and you start to think that you need permission to pursue your own ideas. You start to think that you need another certification, another course, another year of experience before you can do the thing you're clearly already capable of. And listen, I had imposter syndrome for years. I get it. I thought I would need a certain kind of level of education to do the work that I'm doing. I thought I needed more credentials, more validation, more proof that I was allowed to do this. And you know what finally cured me? Starting anyway and watching it work. That is truly the only cure. You don't and you won't feel ready until you start. And once you start, you'll realize you were ready all along. And so one of the things I like to do just to remind me of who I am and what I'm capable of is what I call a capability audit. I like to do a few things. One way to see this clearly is by doing a capability audit. You're going to make a list of everything you do in your job that would be valuable to someone else. Not your job title, but your actual skills. Can you write? Can you analyze data? Can you research? Can you manage projects? Can you communicate with stakeholders? Can you solve problems? Can you build relationships? For each skill, I want you to ask, if someone hired me to do just this, what would it be worth? And I promise you, the skills that you're giving away for a salary are worth real money on the open market. And after you do that for each skill, now I want you to ask, what's stopping me from offering this skill to someone who needs it? Usually the answer is some version of, I'm not ready or I need more experience, but you're already doing this work, y'all, right now for someone else. And then finally, I want you to ask yourself, what would I need to believe about myself to just start? Not credentials do you need, not what permission do you need. What would you need to really believe that what you want to do is possible and that you are more than capable of doing? And usually it comes down to this, believing that your expertise is valuable, believing that people will pay for it, and believing that you're allowed to offer it. You're not missing skills. If anything, you're just missing some conviction. Rule number 4. Rule number 4 flips the script on how you think about your job, and it goes like this. Your corporate job is teaching you what not to build. Every frustration you have at work, that's market research. Every silly policy that makes no sense, that's a business opportunity. Every time you think this is so inefficient, or why don't they just, or why couldn't they just, that's your competitive advantage being handed to you on a silver platter. Most people waste their frustration. Oof. Most people waste their frustration. I mean, I see it on LinkedIn every day. People would rather complain more than they contribute. They complain to their coworkers. They vent to their partners. They scroll through job listings looking for somewhere less dysfunctional. But let's be real, y'all. Where's that going to be? But wise people document their frustration and they turn their complaints into insights. That's the relationship shift. And I remember thinking about this when I was building my business. Every time I sat in a meeting thinking, this research approach is so dehumanizing, I was learning what the market really needed. Every time I saw organizations harming their customers while claiming to be human-centered, I was discovering my positioning. Every time I felt my values clash with corporate culture and internal gaslighting, I was clarifying what my business would actually stand for, what my consulting business, humanity-centered, could and would be. Your frustration is information. That's the shift, y'all. Your frustration is information. Your dissatisfaction is data. And the things that make you want to quit are the exact things that will make your eventual business viable, deeply human, and created in a way that honors your values. So for me, it's not about complaining. Stop complaining. If anything, it's about documenting. Start taking notes, y'all. Starting today, keep a frustration log, right? Every time something at work bothers you, like really bothers you, not just minor annoyances, write it down. What happened? Describe the situation specifically. Why did it bother you? What value of yours was violated? What inefficiency did it reveal? What problem did it expose? Who else is probably experiencing this? Is this unique to your company, or is this a widespread issue in your industry and in other industries? What would a better solution look like? If you could fix this, how would you do it? And last, would someone pay for that solution? And be honest, is this a real problem people would invest money to solve? Do this for 30 days, and by the end, you'll have a document full of potential business ideas. Ideas that come from real problems you've experienced, not theoretical markets you've imagined. Because the best businesses don't come from innovation labs. They just don't. They come from people who got frustrated enough to build something better. Hey, this is Vivianne, and I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. And I just wanted to pause for a quick moment to say that this podcast is ad-free on purpose. And we want to keep it that way so that it feels like a space that's just for us and just a little bit more divorced from noise on what we should buy and what we should consume. And so the best way to help us do that is by sharing it with someone you think would really connect with it, someone who you think would feel encouraged or get something out of this episode, or by leaving an honest review, because it helps more folks find us. And honestly, it could be the exact thing someone else needed to hear today, just because you took a moment to spread the word. So thanks for being here. I appreciate you, and let's get back to it. All right, I have 2 more rules for you, and then I'm out of your way. Rule number 5 might be the most important mindset shift of all, and it goes like this. Entrepreneurship isn't riskier than employment. It's just honest about the risk. I hear it all the time. I love to start my own thing, but it's too risky, and I need the stability of a job. And every time I hear this, I want to scream. What stability, y'all? Have you looked outside? Have you looked at the market? The stability of being let go because your department got restructured? Is that the stability we're talking about? The stability of your entire industry being disrupted by AI? The stability of being one bad quarter away from a layoff, no matter how good your performance reviews are? That's stability? In 2025 alone, we saw massive layoffs at companies that people thought were safe. Tech companies, media companies, financial services, places where people had spent entire careers suddenly cutting thousands of positions. And these weren't struggling businesses, y'all. These were profitable companies making quote unquote strategic decisions that happened to destroy people's livelihoods. That's not stability. That's just risk you're pretending you don't have. Employment feels stable because you're not the one making the decision. Someone else decides if the company succeeds. Someone else decides if your department gets funding. Someone else decides if you keep your job. And because those decisions are out of your hands, you can tell yourself you're safe. But you're not. You're not safe. You're just not in control. Entrepreneurship feels risky because you are making the decisions. You decide if the business succeeds. You decide where to invest your resources. You decide what risks to take. And because those decisions are visible to you, the risk feels more real. But here's the thing. The risk was always real. Entrepreneurship just makes it visible. And visible risk is actually better than hidden risk because visible risk can be managed. You can make decisions, adapt, pivot. Hidden risk just surprises you when it's too late to do anything about it. Now, I'm not saying entrepreneurship is easy. It's not, but it's honest. You know what you're dealing with. You're not pretending that someone else will take care of you while that person calculates whether you're worth keeping around. So let's get real about risk. Here's an exercise for you. List every risk you're currently taking by being employed. I'll get you started. The risk of layoffs, the risk of industry disruption, the risk of your company being acquired, of your boss leaving and being replaced by someone who doesn't value you, the risk of reorgs, getting rid of your role, the risk of your skills becoming obsolete while you're busy doing the same job, of health problems from stress, overwork, or a toxic environment, the risk of waking up at 50 realizing you spent your best years building someone else's dream. Some examples to get you going. List every risk you're currently taking by being employed. Now, I want you to list the risks of starting your own thing, your own business. And these are real risks, but nonetheless should be named. I'll give you a few to get you started. The risk of financial loss, the risk of failure, the risk of embarrassment, the risk of working harder than you do now, the risk of uncertainty. And as you're thinking about these risks, which one is longer? Or rather, which risks are actually more controllable? The employment risks happen to you. The entrepreneurship risks are things you actively manage. And I think it's important to know the difference so you can know which one you'd rather face. And personally, I'd rather face the latter. And the final rule, rule number 6, is about how you show up every day, and it goes like this. Work your job like a consultant, not an employee. Consultants and employees do similar work, but have completely different relationships with that work. An employee shows up thinking about longevity. How do I secure my position? How do I get promoted? How do I make my boss happy? An employee invests emotionally in the company's success, takes on work that's not in their job description, and measures their value by how much the company needs them. A consultant? A consultant shows up thinking about delivery. What value am I providing today? How do I execute efficiently and with excellence? How do I maintain healthy boundaries? A consultant delivers what they promise, documents their impact, and keeps their identity separate from their client's success or failure. The emotional difference is massive. Employees get devastated by layoffs because their identity is wrapped up in their role. Consultants see the end of an engagement as expected, maybe disappointing, but not devastating. Employees feel guilty leaving for a better opportunity. Consultants understand that every engagement has an end date, whether that's explicit or not. Employees sacrifice their well-being from their employer, thinking it will be rewarded. Consultants maintain boundaries because they know that over-delivery isn't sustainable and usually isn't valued anyway. So here's the hard truth. You can have an employee title while adopting a consultant mindset. You can do excellent work, deliver real value, and maintain professional relationships, all while keeping emotional distance, protecting your energy, and working on your exit plan during your own time. This doesn't mean being disengaged or doing bad work. Hear me out. Consultants do great work. They just don't lose themselves in it. They don't need to sacrifice their health and relationships for it. They don't confuse their value as a person with their value to one particular organization. So here's how to adopt a consultant mindset starting tomorrow. Number 1, define your deliverables clearly. What are you actually being paid to produce? Focus your energy there. Stop volunteering for things that don't contribute to your core deliverables or your personal development. Number 2, document your impact. Consultants track their wins because they need to justify their value, and you should too. Not for your employer, but for yourself. This documentation becomes your portfolio for whatever you do next. Number 3, set boundaries without guilt. Consultants don't answer emails at midnight unless there's an explicit emergency clause in their contract. I know I have them in mine, and neither should you. Your off hours are for building your future, not servicing someone else's. Number 4, keep your identity separate. You are not your job title. When someone asks you what you do, practice answering them in terms of skills and value rather than role and company. I help organizations understand their customers instead of I'm a UX researcher at Google. No. Keep your identity separate. Number 5, treat every engagement as temporary because it is. Whether you leave in 6 months or 6 years, this job will end, so behave accordingly. And finally, number 6, invest your best energy in your growth. Your employer gets your professional best during work hours. Your dreams get your creative best outside of them. This mindset shift alone can transform how you experience work. It takes the desperation out, it takes the emotional roller coaster out, and it positions you to make clear-headed decisions about your future. So let me bring all 6 rules together now and talk about what they mean in the context of 2025. This has been a year that expose a lot of lies we've been telling ourselves. And that lie is that loyalty is rewarded. The lie is that hard work guarantees security, that staying safe is actually safe, and that you need permission to build the life that you want. These are the lies. And the truth that emerged from all that wreckage is this: the only security that exists is the security you build yourself. Unlike what these companies want us to believe, security isn't something that's given, it's something we build. The only stability that matters is the stability of knowing who you are, what you can do, and what you're willing to tolerate. And these 6 rules are about reclaiming your energy, right? Rule number 1: your job is alone, not a career. It's about seeing clearly, understanding the actual nature of the transaction you're in. Rule number 2: your side hustle should scare you. It's about taking real action, moving beyond fantasy into commitment. Rule number 3: you're already overqualified for your dreams. It's about trusting yourself, recognizing that the skills you have are enough. Rule number 4: your job teaches you what not to build. Is about using everything, turning your frustration into fuel. Rule number 5: entrepreneurship is honest about risk. It's about seeing risk accurately and not letting fear of visible risk keep you trapped in hidden risk. And rule number 6: work like a consultant is about protecting yourself, doing excellent work without losing yourself in it. And together, these rules are a framework for building a life where you're not constantly at the mercy of decisions made by people who don't care about you. Now, I know some of y'all have questions. Let me address some of the big ones. But Viv, I have a mortgage and kids and real responsibilities. I can't just take risks. My answer to that is that those responsibilities are exactly why you need to take this seriously. Not reckless risks, but strategic ones. Your kids are watching you live a life. What are you modeling for them? Is the life that you're modeling an example or a cautionary tale? Are you showing them that security comes from pleasing your employers or that security comes from developing yourself? Also, nothing I've said requires you to quit your job tomorrow. You can implement all 6 of these rules while still being employed. That's the whole point. Build from where you are. Now, some of you might be saying, but I don't have time for a side hustle. My answer to this is more of a question. Is it that you don't have time, or you're spending your time on things that feel urgent but aren't important? And I ask this with genuine curiosity and compassion, not judgment, because I know so many of you listening to this are tired. I know you're overwhelmed, but if you can find even an hour and a half, 2 hours a week, even just an hour, you can start building something. The question is whether you're willing to prioritize it. Some of you might be asking, okay, Viv, but what if I fail? You probably will fail at some things. I have multiple times. But here's what failure actually looks like. You try something, it doesn't work, you learn something, and you try again. That's it. It's not the dramatic, life ruining catastrophe we imagine. I promise you that when you fail, the worst thing that could happen is that you would die and that you won't die. I promise you, you won't die if you fail. You'll still be here. And what's the alternative? Succeeding at a life that you don't actually want? Do we want that life? Succeeding at a life that we don't actually want? Some of you might be thinking, okay, but my industry is different. These rules don't really apply to me. Your industry might have specific dynamics I don't understand, true, but the fundamental principles that employment isn't as secure as you think, that you have more agency than you're using, that your skills are far more valuable beyond your current role, those are universal. And I want you to think about how you can apply them to your specific context. And lastly, there might be a small handful of you who are listening to this thinking, but I actually like my job. And that is great. Nothing I've said requires you to hate your job or leave it. These rules are about having options, about not being dependent, about building a life where you work because you choose to, not because you have no alternative, but to work in a toxic, harmful environment or situation. All right, now I want to get super practical here. I've given you a bunch of exercises and activities throughout this podcast. So here's what I want you to do over the next 30 days. Week one, I want you to do the what can I get from this inventory and the risk reality check because I want you to understand what you're currently getting from your job and what risks you're actually facing. Get clear on the transaction. All right. Week number two, I want you to do then the fear audit. Look honestly at whatever side project you have or want to have and assess whether you're actually committed or just pretending. If you're pretending, either get committed or admit it's a hobby. Either one is fine, but just be honest with yourself. Week number three, the capability audit and the frustration log. I want you to now then recognize the skills you already have and start documenting the problems you're uniquely positioned to solve. And finally, week number four, the consultant mindset shift. Start showing up differently at work. Document your impact, set one new boundary, begin separating your identity from your role. That's 4 weeks of intentional work that will fundamentally change how you see your situation. And none of it requires you to quit your job, burn bridges, or make dramatic moves. This is how real change happens, not in dramatic leaps, but in consistent strategic steps. So let me close with what this year has taught me personally. 2025 has taught me that courage isn't about dramatic moments. It's about small, consistent choices that prioritize what matters over what's comfortable. It's about saying no to opportunities that look good but feel wrong. It's about investing in yourself even when no one else sees the value yet. This year taught me that the rules we inherit, the rules about career, success, security, are mostly designed to benefit someone other than us. And questioning these rules isn't cynical, it's necessary, it's wise, it's strategic. This year has also taught me that most people are one honest conversation away from admitting they want something different, that the corporate soldier persona is usually a defense mechanism, not a genuine identity. That when you give people permission to want more, most of them will take it. And finally, this year has taught me that it's never, ever too late. I know people who made their move at 30, at 45, at 60. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is now. So wherever you are, stuck in a job you hate, building something on the side, contemplating your first move, or years into your entrepreneurial journey, I hope that these 6 rules give you something useful. Not motivation, not inspiration, something more practical than that, a framework for seeing clearly and acting strategically. Because the life that you want isn't going to build itself, and no one is going to build it for you. If this episode resonated with you, I genuinely want to hear about it. Feel free to send me a message at hello@choosecourageinc.com and tell me what rule hit the hardest. Tell me what you're going to do differently. And if you know someone who needs to hear this, someone who's stuck, who's frustrated, who's scared to make a move, please share this episode with them. Sometimes the thing that unlocks someone's courage is just hearing that someone else sees the situation clearly too. And last but not least, if you want to go deeper in any of this, I would encourage you to check out The Walkout. It's an amazing event with hundreds of other folks in your similar position who are curious about building a different life for themselves. Check out The Walkout. Go to jointhewalkout.com. Learn more. It's happening in January. And if you're finding yourself in a place of transition or you're contemplating one, maybe you want to do some more work around this when it comes to building your business. Again, I have a group coaching offering that could support you. I do one-on-one coaching. Feel free to go to choosecourageinc.com to learn more about ways that we could support you. There's some freebies and resources and trainings on there as well where you can find more information. But for now, here's what I'll leave you with. This is the last thought I have for you before I wrap up our final episode for 2025. Your job is a loan, so pay it off. Your side hustle should scare you. Let it. You're already qualified, so trust yourself. Your frustration is fuel. Use it. Use that data. Employment isn't safe. It's just dishonest about the danger. And I want you to work like a consultant, protect your energy, protect your spirit, and really understand the value of your skills and your gifts. And if you take away anything from this, it's that I hope that you build the life that you actually want. Thank y'all for being here. Thank you for listening and tuning in to Choose Courage Inc. this year. I'm so excited for what we'll be creating and shaping and developing for you next year. Until then, I hope you continue to choose courage over comfort. And of course, drink some water.